Welcome back, everyone, to the deep dive, where we like to take a deep dive, into something really cool and interesting. And today we're going to be diving into the video game, The Suicide of Rachel Foster. Before we jump into all the dark and stormy stuff, I've got a little joke for you. Why don't scientists trust atoms? Because they make up everything. I'm Hari, and joining me today to unpack all this is Kimi.
Hi, I'm Kimi, and I'm excited to delve into this game developed by 101 Games and published by Daedalic Entertainment. And you know what's interesting about The Suicide of Rachel Foster? It had a really unusual release pattern. Like, it came out on Windows first in February of 2020, then on PlayStation 4 and Xbox One in September of 2020, and finally on Nintendo Switch in October 2021.
Yeah, not your typical release. Definitely unusual. So the game itself is set in December 1993, and we play as Nicole Wilson, who is returning to her family's hotel, the Timberline Hotel, way up in the mountains of Montana. And the big mystery is, of course, the suicide of Rachel Foster. Rachel had an affair with Nicole's father 10 years prior when she was just a teenager, and now Nicole is back to figure out what really happened. Oh, and to make things even more fun, a huge snowstorm hits, trapping Nicole at the hotel and forcing her to rely on a FEMA agent, Irving Crawford, for help from afar. I don't know if you noticed this, but the cover art of the game actually features Rachel Foster's retainer.
Kind of a haunting little detail. And when we talk about the game, we have to talk about the genre, right? Because it really shakes the whole experience. It's classified as an adventure game, specifically a first-person mystery thriller. And some people even call it a walking simulator, which basically means it's all about the story and exploring the environment, not so much about action or combat. And 101 Games made this choice very deliberately because they wanted to explore some pretty heavy real-life themes.
Yeah, it's definitely a game that makes you think. And speaking of the environment, the Timberline Hotel itself is like a character in the game. It's this massive, creepy, and isolated place that just oozes a sense of dread and claustrophobia. The developers have actually said that they were inspired by the Overlook Hotel from The Shining when they designed it. So that definitely adds to the creepy vibe. And you can tell they put a lot of effort into making the hotel feel real, like they did all these architectural studies and stuff to make sure everything was proportional and believable.
Yeah, you can really get lost in that hotel. So as Nicole, you spend a lot of your time just exploring the hotel and trying to solve all sorts of environmental puzzles. Like you might need to find a screwdriver to open a drawer or figure out how to get the power back on. And you've got a handy map that shows you your objectives. You mostly communicate with Irving using a mobile phone and this dialogue tree system, so your choices actually affect how the conversation goes. And as the game progresses, you get some pretty cool tools to help you out, like a Polaroid camera, which is also your light source during blackouts, a proper flashlight, and even a parabolic microphone, which you use to listen in on distant sounds and crack those tricky audio puzzles.
Right. And the story unfolds in a series of, revelations. It starts with Nicole finding a letter from her mom, Claire, who just recently passed away. Claire tells her to sell the hotel, which sets the whole mystery in motion. We learned about her dad, Leonard, and his affair with Rachel back in 1983. Rachel was 16 at the time and she got pregnant. And just 9 weeks later, she supposedly committed suicide. This whole thing caused Nicole and her mom to leave the Timberline in Montana for good.
Then when Nicole arrives at the hotel, this massive snowstorm hits. She's totally cut off, and the only person she can talk to is Irving from FEMA. He seems to know a lot about the hotel and about Rachel and Leonard, which makes Nicole kind of suspicious. Then things get even weirder when she gets a creepy call on one of the hotel phones. Someone tells her not to sell the hotel because Rachel is still there. Plus, she finds a lipstick that's been used recently, so now she's really starting to think that maybe Rachel's death wasn't a suicide after all.
Right, and on Christmas Eve, things take a really strange turn. Nicole wakes up in a church that's secretly connected to the hotel. She remembers a rhyme her dad taught her, and it leads her to a secret room that's been set up exactly like Rachel's old bedroom. It makes her think that Rachel was actually living in the hotel this whole time. But that's not all. In this secret room, she finds the key to her childhood music box. When she opens it, a memory comes flooding back to her. She remembers going to a hockey game with her mom on December 27th, 1983, which is the same day Rachel supposedly died. So the timeline is all messed up.
And the discoveries just keep coming. Nicole finds another hidden room. This time it's full of mannequins set up in this disturbing scene. It shows a pregnant woman being killed with a hockey stick. And get this, she recognizes the hockey stick as her own. Freaked out, she calls Irving, but he kind of brushes it off, which makes her even more suspicious of him. She eventually finds this empty room, and that's when he finally comes clean. He admits that he's been messing with things in the hotel, trying to get Nicole to uncover the truth about Rachel's death. It turns out Rachel was his older sister. He talks about their abusive family and how Rachel, who struggled with dyslexia, really relied on Leonard for support.
So Nicole keeps digging and ends up in the hotel's dusty old attic. There she finds a recording from her dad, Leonard. He begs her to find out what truly happened to Rachel and gives her the keys to her mom's car. And in the trunk of the car, she finds a blood-stained blanket. And that's when it all comes back to her, a repressed memory from that night. The truth is absolutely horrifying. Claire, Nicole's own mother, killed Rachel with Nicole's hockey stick and made it look like a suicide while Nicole was at that hockey game.
Oh, wow. And after Nicole uncovers this devastating truth, Irving thanks her for helping him find closure. But then, in a tragic turn of events, he decides to go out into the freezing cold and basically just give up. His phone cuts out, and a distraught Nicole, now completely alone, hears footsteps and thinks, for a moment, it might be Rachel. And then the game gives you, the player, a really tough choice. It skips ahead and shows Nicole in her car, about to commit suicide by carbon monoxide poisoning. She gets a call from her lawyer and tells him she's not selling the hotel. And then it's up to you. If you don't do anything, Nicole dies. But if you turn off the car, it suggests that maybe, just maybe, she'll find a way to rebuild her life amidst all the tragedy.
That ending is so heavy, and it really sparked a lot of debate. So as we wrap up our deep dive into the suicide of Rachel Foster, I think it's clear that this game is so much more than just a spooky story. It tackles really tough subjects like child abuse, suicide, and the dark secrets families keep. And it leaves us with a lot to think about, especially now that there's a sequel in the works, The Fading of Nicole Wilson. They're calling it a folk horror adventure, and it's going to be set in the same Timberline Hotel, but with a new character, Britt.
I'm really curious to see how they handle those sensitive themes in the sequel, especially given the criticism they got for the original. And the shift to folk horror, I wonder what that means for the story they're going to tell.
Yeah, definitely a lot of questions and a lot to look forward to. Well, that's it for our deep dive into the suicide of Rachel Foster.
Thanks for listening, everyone, and we'll see you next time on The Deep Dive.